You're watching 8 News. News where you live.
Good morning, Central Virginia. It is Thursday, December 30th. Here's a look at some of the stories you'll see coming up next on 8 News at 9. Families all over Virginia are scrambling looking for COVID testing. The latest on the demand and why supply isn't keeping up. Several morning crashes in the area causing delays on the roads. We have the latest on the areas you should avoid. A Virginia family watches their farm and home go up in flames. They show us the damage as the community rallies to help them rebuild. The jury has reached a verdict in the trial of Jeffrey Epstein's former girlfriend and associates. See what's next for Ghislaine Maxwell. Matt?
All right, weather-wise, we are dealing with low clouds, some fog, some of you maybe a little drizzle, 51 degrees, just not a pretty morning across the River City. Some visibility still down to less than 2 miles as you look at Richmond, Petersburg, Crew, Farmville. Things will improve in terms of visibility, but the clouds are not going to give way today. We're going to be stuck with them. All right, 51 right now, Richmond, Mechanicsville, 50 out to Beaver Dam. We're in the low 50s to the east, and same thing south. Lots of 50s, even 54 now in Stony Creek. Here we go. Cloudy skies at 10 into the mid-50s, topping out at 61 today. And technically, yes, mild for this time of year, but still not pretty. Let's go to Traffic Tracker 8. They are still trying to clean up this tractor-trailer accident on 295 between Meadow Bridge and Mechanicsville Turnpike. They have 2 cranes trying to lift this trailer onto the back of the flatbed there. As you do note, though, the right lane is open, so it's passable. It's just a little bit of a slow go. We also have an accident at Patterson and Parham Road, where the right lane and right shoulder are closed on Parham. Everything else moving smoothly. We're back in 2 minutes.
You're watching 8 News. News where you live.
Good morning, Richmond. Thanks for joining us for 8 News at 9. I'm Rachel Keller. John Rogers is off today. Storm Tracker 8 meteorologist Matt DiNardo is standing by with a look at your forecast. But first, a quick check on the roads. How are things looking this morning?
Well, still looking at that one accident on 295 between Meadow Bridge and Mechanicsville Turnpike. It has 1 lane open, so traffic's getting by now, but still a slow cleanup. We'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. Take a look, though. Problems this morning have to do with kind of just blah conditions. Lots of clouds, a little bit of fog. Visibility is about 1 mile in Richmond, 1/4 mile in Petersburg, 1/2 mile Crew. You're looking at about 1/2 mile up toward Louisa, or maybe 1/4 mile. So it's not so great out there. A little bit of drizzle, a little bit of mist. Those low gray clouds are going to stay with us today. We're not going to see any sunshine. Improvement is on the way a little bit for tomorrow, though. Temperatures 52, Richmond, Petersburg, and Ashland. Low 50s just about everywhere. Here's what I'm looking at. You're heading out the door by noon, cloudy skies. We're going to just eke up to about 59. We'll hit a high of 61, which technically is mild considering the normal high is 49. It's just going to be damp, though. We're going to stay cloudy through this evening and tonight. We could pop to 70 tomorrow. We're dry to ring in the new year, but quickly thereafter the rain comes in. We'll break down your New Year's Eve and New Year's Day forecast in a few minutes. Time now, though, for Traffic Tracker 8. Okay, so 295 has been a problem all morning between Meadow Bridge Road and Mechanicsville Turnpike, and this is the scene of the accident. It was an overturned tractor trailer this morning. They split the trailer from the actual storage container, the box, let's say, and they got the cab and the trailer part, the wheels away. They still have the box on the road. They have two cranes trying to lift it up onto this wrecker here so they can haul it away. But it's a big deal. So right now, only thing happening is the right lane is open at this time. We also have an accident, and you can see the right lane being open at Parham and Patterson, Parham and Patterson, where the right lane is closed and right shoulder as well. Everything else is green, which is good news. We're moving smoothly. I would just try to avoid 295 between Meadow Bridge and Mechanicsville Turnpike. Let's go back over to Rachel Keller now for your news.
Thanks, Matt. Turning now to our coronavirus coverage and the rush to get tested across Central Virginia. Folks waiting hours for tests as cases continue to surge at an alarming rate. 8 News reporter Autumn Childress is live in Richmond with what state health leaders say is causing all of this. Good morning, Autumn.
Well, Rachel, good morning. This surge in cases has people scrambling to find a test, and this morning state health leaders hint that Virginia just wasn't prepared to handle this demand. I'll get to their response in just a moment, but first take a look at this. This was the scene outside of a testing site in Richmond yesterday. Dozens of cars sitting bumper to bumper and people lined up for tests outside a church community center in Chesterfield. The event started at 3 p.m., but minutes before, people were told that tests had already run out. The Chesterfield Health District hasn't responded about the shortage, but state vaccine coordinator Dr. Danny Avula says this all came quickly, hinting that Virginia wasn't prepared. Those rapid tests are now hard to come by, plus Avula says there aren't enough people to work these test sites. This morning, he's pointing the finger at the federal government, hoping President Biden's order for 500 million rapid tests will come sooner rather than later. Meanwhile, though, he says PCR tests are the way to go. Take a listen.
We still do have plenty of capacity at the state lab for PCR tests. Obviously, people have kind of avoided those just because of the more invasive nasal swab.
Now, the Henrico and Richmond Health Districts say they've tested more than 840 people just this week. With demand where it is, though, they've added 3 additional testing sites for next week. I'll break down where those are coming up in our next half hour. Live in Richmond this morning, Autumn Childress, 8 News.
Thank you so much, Autumn. New this morning, as Matt said earlier, right now the right lane is open after a tractor trailer crashed just north of the Mechanicsville Turnpike in Hanover. This is on I-295 South. All the southbound lanes were closed earlier. You can see there a lot going on. The tractor trailer overturned. Traffic is now being diverted. This will likely be causing traffic delays for hours. No word on any injuries at this time, but stay with 8 News for updates. Vdot crews were cleaning up after a crash on I-85 northbound earlier this morning. The crash happened just after 2:40. It shut down the merging lanes just south of Petersburg near the I-85-95 split. No word on any injuries at this time, but we know there was an oil spill across the northbound lanes. The owners of Crazy Farm in Richmond County are left with nothing after fire destroys their home in Westmoreland County. Smoke still rises from what's left of the Izagary's home. The springs from a destroyed mattress and a charred dresser show how strong the flames were early yesterday morning. Victor Izagary says his dad and sister ran out of the house. His mom jumped from the second-story window. Victor describes the moments before also deciding to jump with his son.
We couldn't breathe. He didn't see my mom in the room anymore, so we thought she was out. And we're trying to run back the other way to go down the other side of the stairs, and like the whole bottom was on fire.
We're told Victor's mom could get out of the hospital soon. She has injuries to her ankle and possibly her spine. The family says they're still not sure what caused the fire. Now to the aftermath of Ghislaine Maxwell's conviction on sex trafficking charges. Maxwell's battles in court are far from over, but she's facing what could be decades in prison. ABC's Mona Kosar Abdi has the details.
This morning, prosecutors are calling it a, quote, great day for justice, after a jury found Ghislaine Maxwell guilty on 5 of 6 federal charges, including the sex trafficking of minors. The 6-year-old Maxwell showed no reaction when the verdict was read before 2 U.S. Marshals walked her out of the courtroom. She now faces up to 65 years behind bars.
A unanimous jury has found Ghislaine Maxwell guilty of one of the worst crimes imaginable, facilitating and participating in the sexual abuse of children, crimes that she committed with her longtime partner and co-conspirator, Jeffrey Epstein.
It's a stunning fall from grace for the British socialite who once rubbed elbows with world leaders and royalty. The longtime companion of disgraced financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein was described by prosecutors as his partner in crime. The government accusing her of being a serial predator who helped Epstein sexually abuse underage girls, arguing she lured young girls to Epstein's homes and invited them to give him explicit massages, managing the details right down to the lotion and oils. At the heart of the prosecution's case, 4 accusers who say they were recruited and groomed by Maxwell when they were teenagers. One accuser, only known by her first name Carolyn, saying in a statement, quote, "Satisfaction with Maxwell's conviction is tempered by the knowledge that the other co-conspirators have yet to be held responsible for their involvement in Jeffrey Epstein's extraordinary criminal enterprise." Maxwell's defense claiming she was being used as a scapegoat for Epstein and attempted to discredit her accusers, questioning their memories and claiming they were motivated by money. Maxwell's family, who were in the courtroom when the verdict was read, releasing a statement overnight saying, quote, "We believe firmly in our sister's innocence." Monaco Sarabdi, ABC News, New York.
This year's Capital City Kwanzaa Festival, set for today, has been canceled. The Elegba Folklore Society, who organizes the event, is worried about rising COVID cases in the Richmond area. They thank everyone who had planned to attend. Everyone who invested in the festival will get a full refund. The Smithsonian is temporarily closing some museums. 5 museums are shutting their doors as Omicron slams the D.C. area. The biggest among them is the Museum of Natural History. It's scheduled to reopen on January 5th. The Museum of African Art, National Postal Museum, Anacostia Community Museum, and Museum of Asian Art will reopen on January 3rd. Grocery chain Publix says that they will start offering paid parental leave to employees who are new parents. This is for full and part-time workers. They'll be able to take time off during the first year of the birth or adoption of a child. Publix didn't share many details on how much paid time off new parents would get. Well, some retailers are having issues with the surge of gift returns. Coming up, why they're now asking you to keep your items. Time now is 9:09 here on our Thursday morning. You're watching 8 News at 9, covering news where you live. Don't go anywhere. We're back in a moment.
9/11, and we're taking a look outside our Rockets Landing camera. Boy, this is just a picture that speaks 1,000 words. Looking upriver toward the city, you have the low clouds, the fog, the gray and gloomy conditions. It really isn't going to get a whole lot better today. Again, the clouds will stay with us. But one thing to note, Viper real-time radar. Remember this morning I said that any spotty showers would end between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. That's the case. Now, that is not the case in terms of some drizzle, because sometimes the radar beams, we talk about this whole time, the fog and the drizzle's down here and your radar beam shooting up top. So sometimes we overshoot that. But the point is, it's generally just a blah looking day. In fact, let's go over to Viper satellite here for just a second. And you can see, I mean, just socked in with those heavy clouds across the region. Now, a couple of things to talk about here. There is some improvement coming tomorrow. We're going to hit a high in the upper 60s to near 70 tomorrow. And perhaps you're going to ring in the new year in style. You're going to go out to dinner tomorrow evening, 63 degrees. Or maybe you're going to be like me, just going to go to your mom's house for dinner because she's going to make lasagna. Yep. Okay. Anyway, we're going to ring in the new year 60. Again, we're going to be dry when we ring in the new year, but around 2 a.m. some rain is going to move on in. And for New Year's Day, it's kind of a split forecast. Rain in the morning as you wake up and you get days going, but later in the day there may be a break in the rain for a while before the second system comes in on Sunday and Monday, and we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. Let's go back over to Rachel now.
Thanks, Matt. I hope I'm invited to your mom's house.
There you go.
Well, a transportation responder in Oregon has a close call while on the job when a tree falls on his windshield. In this dash cam video, you can see the tree start to fall, but in the moment, the responder says he didn't know he was in danger until the branch smacked his windshield.
It was very mind-blowing, and at that point that's where I kind of stepped back, put my hands on top of my head and just had to breathe for a minute. That's kind of when the shock really set in.
Fortunately, there were no injuries. Authorities say they credit the outcome to the driver's safe speed. This can happen when trees are dying or damaged and become overloaded with heavy snow. Extended holiday return policies may wind up hurting major U.S. retailers. Many began Christmas promotions as early as September, even with low inventories due to supply chain problems. Shoppers may be bringing back a record $112 billion in gifts, which can hurt companies' bottom lines. Apple, Nordstrom, Nike, and Walmart are among retailers extending return windows this year, some by as much as 3 months. Well, still ahead, families are picking up the pieces after serious storm damage. We'll take a closer look at what they're dealing with. Time check 9:17. The new wave of COVID-19 infections continues to rise, shattering record highs. This comes as the FDA authorizes another at-home COVID test. Meanwhile, the CDC continues to defend their recently announced changes in isolation times for those with the virus. ABC's Wynn has the latest from Washington.
This morning, a tsunami of new COVID-19 cases. In the last week alone, the U.S. seeing nearly 1.9 million new cases, meaning around 3 people test positive for the virus every second across the country. The U.S. averaging 277,000 new cases a day, more than at any other point during the pandemic. The White House reporting a 126% increase in cases over the last 2 weeks. New York State seeing another record-breaking day with more than 67,000 new COVID cases. Health experts predict daily cases across the country will climb even higher, Dr. Jha telling CNN.
No doubt we'll at least hit half a million. We might hit 1 million a day.
And now, more than 84,000 Americans, including Edgar in Maryland, are in the hospital with COVID.
When I breathe, it hurts. When I cough, it hurts.
The silver lining, hospitalizations remain lower than previous surges, though the rate of admission for children has risen, mostly due to kids not being vaccinated. And new this morning, a real-world study of South African health workers finds that 2 doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine offers 85% protection against hospitalizations, marking a turning point with the J&J vaccine against the new variant.
Early data suggests the rapid antigen test may have reduced sensitivity to Omicron, though they still do detect it. This as the White House helps prepare over 500 million at-home tests for any American who wants one, though they're likely not going to be available until mid-January. Wynn, ABC News, Washington.
Significant damage is left behind after a storm rips through an Alabama city. Some video posted to social media last night shows the damage in Winfield. Buildings torn up, car windshield smashed. The National Weather Service says the storm possibly produced a tornado. City workers say the damage is mostly confined to the downtown area.
The most accurate forecast in Central Virginia. Now, your Storm Tracker 8 weather.
Now, fortunately, we aren't seeing any of that here in Central VA, Matt, but we are seeing some fog this morning.
Yeah, fog, low clouds, drizzle, mist, and just kind of a blah morning across Central Virginia. And unfortunately, there's no real break in the clouds coming today. May get some breaks tomorrow. I'm just going to bring this out, Ward, for just a bit here. You notice I have these storm track markers on there for you. The reason for that, just to kind of show you that some places, as we just talked about, saw some very bad storms last evening and last night. And there's still some strong weather going on down through portions of Alabama and into Georgia this morning. So we're watching for that, but that's not going to really get here anytime soon. So let's talk about what is coming our way. We go to Futurecast and we'll begin it this morning at around 10 o'clock going to noon. Lots of clouds. Temperatures will slowly climb from the lower 50s into the upper 50s by the lunch hour. It's not going to be a beautiful day by any means. In fact, heavy on the clouds all day. Futurecast is trying to show at least a few breaks in those clouds. I think that may be just a little optimistic. So we'll continue with the clouds for this afternoon into this evening. More clouds tonight, maybe a passing shower between 9 p.m. and midnight right along the Virginia-North Carolina line. I would say probably most of that will be in North Carolina. Tonight we drop back into the upper 40s. Tomorrow, lots of clouds in the morning, but breaks in those clouds will develop, and some of you might have a mixture of clouds and sunshine tomorrow afternoon. That'll push temperatures into the upper 60s to near 70. However, those clouds roll back in for Friday evening, New Year's Eve, and after midnight around 2-3 a.m. rain moves on in. That rain will be with us for Saturday morning through the lunch hour, and then as we get into the afternoon, we'll push the rain northward and we'll push warmer temperatures in here. If we get some breaks, that temperature is going to jump up to about 72. If we don't, it'll stay in the middle to upper 60s, just so you know. And then there's a whole nother system coming at us for Sunday into early Monday. So let's use an extended Futurecast here. And if you're a weather enthusiast, this is one of those long-range models, the GFS. And the reason why I'm showing this to you, by the way, lots of rain early in the morning, or at least developing. Some of it steady at times through the lunch hour, possibly some heavy rain Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, what's that colder stuff? So the GFS, this long-range futurecast, is trying to pull down some cooler air as the rain departs late Sunday night, early Monday morning. Now, as far as you're thinking, all right, we're going to finally get snow, school's going to be no, we do not ever do good. I mean, like once in a blue moon. Better chance of winning the lottery. Doing good from going from rain to accumulating snows. It just doesn't really happen. It has, but it's always shown in the models like it's going to happen. It doesn't. So just expect rain and then a cold rain late Sunday night. 61 today, 70 tomorrow, 68 with rain in the morning on New Year's Day, and then another system with more rain Sunday. Monday, by the time that you get up, we're back to the sunshine, 43 and colder, and then we moderate those temperatures early next week into the 50s. Time now for Traffic Tracker 8, a look at your morning drive. Okay, they're getting better. They got part of this box up on the wrecker using both of the cranes. This is the crash at 295 south of Meadow Bridge Road to Mechanicsville Turnpike that had all lanes shut down early this morning around 7 a.m. The right lane open, and that's what remains open right now. And you see they're lifting that box up onto the wrecker. But it's a slow process, so they're still working at it. We still have an accident here, right-hand shoulder, right-hand lane closed at Patterson and Parham in the near West End. Other than that, things are looking good. That's a stalled vehicle, by the way, downtown Richmond. That's all we have, which is great stuff. You can see your traffic cameras showing very light volume out there, and your drive times are looking good. Rachel, back to you.
Thanks so much, Matt. Well, still ahead, it's not raining cats and dogs here, but fish. See what had folks scratching their heads in this morning's trending. Welcome back. The time right now is 9:27 on our Thursday morning, and you're watching 8 News at 9. We're taking a live look outside from our Virginia War Memorial camera. Quite the foggy start to our day, but it should get better in a few hours. All right, folks. Time now to take a look at what's trending this morning. There was something really fishy about the weather forecast in a Texas town yesterday. Folks saw fish falling from the sky as storms rolled through. This was in Texarkana. Witnesses say they heard a loud crack of thunder and looked up to see bass raining down onto the roads. Experts believe this could have been caused by a water spout. This can suck up small creatures like fish and frogs, carrying them until a storm passes and they just fall back down. A great way to end off 2021.
It's a totally crazy story. But if I went fishing and I said to you, no, we had such a great time, we were catching fish left and right, they were falling out of the sky, you'd look at me and go, yeah, sure.
Yeah, right.
But I got my video proof. I went fishing down in Texarkana yesterday, took a little trip down there.
And you saw.
Yeah, falling from the sky. It was so good. That's an incredible story. It really is.
Nuts. Yes, it is true, folks. This really happened. All right, time now, 9:28. We've got your top stories when we come back.
You're watching 8 News. News where you live.
Good morning, Richmond. Thank you so much for joining us for 8 News at 9. I'm Rachel Keller. Storm Tracker 8 meteorologist Matt DiNardo standing by now with a look at your forecast. But first, a quick check on those roads. Hey, Matt.
Well, good morning to you, Rachel. Good morning, everybody. Just taking a look at the roads and not the one behind me here. We still have that major issue, 295 between Meadow Bridge Road and Mechanicsville Turnpike, where we have one lane open due to an earlier tractor-trailer crash. They're trying to get it fixed and get it out of there. It's taking some time. Outside right now, low clouds, fog, 51 degrees. It is just a yucky morning here in central Virginia. You can see some areas, visibility's less than a mile. 3/4 of a mile Petersburg, about a 1/4 mile Crew and Farmville. You're looking at about a 1/4 mile in Louisa, but most areas are a little bit better than that. The fog will lift, but the clouds will stay with us today, making for just kind of a ugly looking day. Let's break down that forecast. Before we do that, actually, quick check of temperatures. Mid-50s down toward Emporia and South Hill, 54 in Wakefield and 52 right now for Richmond, Ashland, even Petersburg sitting at 52. All right, here we go. Heading out at noon, 59 degrees, cloudy, still kind of damp, 61 for your high today. We're going to stay with cloudy skies into this evening. Better weather trying to come in tomorrow. We'll talk about that in a few minutes, but let's go to that accident I was talking about, Traffic Tracker 8, and 295 continues to be the issue between Meadow Bridge Road and Mechanicsville Turnpike. Early this morning, all lanes were blocked. Now the right lane is open. You can see they have two cranes trying to lift the box part of the tractor trailer, which was on its side this morning, onto the back of this wrecker and get it out of here, but that is taking some time. It's, just a big project. All right, back to Parham and Patterson. We still have two lanes closed, right lane and right shoulder closed on Parham and Patterson, so be mindful of that. Everything else is green, so we are moving smoothly. In fact, we're showing pretty quiet conditions on your roads now, with the exception of that 295 accident drive times. Looking good. Here's Rachel Keller with your news.
Thanks, Matt. This morning, demand for COVID tests remains high here in Virginia. Hundreds of people waiting for hours at testing events, and for some, they're even being turned away. 8 News reporter Autumn Childress is live in Richmond this morning with how health leaders are responding. Good morning, Autumn.
Hey there, Rachel. Good morning. Like you just mentioned, demand for these tests is skyrocketing right now. State health leaders say they're working to tackle the issue, but a solution may not come fast. Now, here's a look at the scene outside of a Richmond testing event yesterday morning. Cars bumper to bumper there. And then this scene outside of a church community center, people waiting for hours there. And minutes before the event started, they were told tests had already run out. Now, the Chesterfield Health District didn't respond when we asked about the shortage, but State Vaccine Coordinator Dr. Danny Avula says this all came quickly, hinting that Virginia wasn't prepared. Those rapid tests now hard to come by, plus Avula says there aren't enough people to work these test sites. Now, in response to this high demand, the Richmond Henrico Health District has added 3 more walk-up testing events. Next Tuesday from 9 to 11 at Second Baptist Church, next Wednesday from 3 to 6 p.m. at Highland Springs Community Center, and next Friday from 1 to 3 p.m. at Diversity Thrift. Now, Dr. Avula says while these rapid tests may be preferred, he's still encouraging those PCR tests. Meanwhile, he's hoping that order from President Biden for 500 million rapid tests will come sooner rather than later. Live in Richmond this morning, Autumn Childress, 8 News.
Thanks so much, Autumn. Now to a vaccine alert this morning. VCU and VSU are now requiring a COVID booster shot for the spring semester. They join Virginia Tech, UVA, and Norfolk State University. VSU telling us the decision is based on scientific recommendations. The school plans to hold booster clinics on campus starting January 11th. Students we spoke to, like Lamaya McLean, say they're not happy about it, but they get it.
Honestly, I didn't really want to get the booster shot because I was already forced to get the vaccination. So it's really like, I just feel like they're forcing another thing on us. But at the same time, I understand because they just want us to be safe.
VCU students and staff will have to report their booster shot by February 1st. VSU will hold booster clinics on campus between January 11th and January 16th. Well, the zoo in Naples, Florida is closed today following a tiger attack on a worker. Deputies shot and killed the animal after the man went into an unauthorized area. Now the case is being compared to the shooting of Harambe. Here's ABC's Andrew Dimbert.
This morning, an investigation is underway in southwest Florida where a tiger attacked a maintenance worker at a zoo.
I do believe that the tiger is still inside the tiger cage.
Officers responding Wednesday night to the zoo in Naples, where they say a member of a cleaning service contracted by the zoo climbed a fence and into an unauthorized area. Authorities say the worker then put his arm into the enclosure to either pet or feed the animal when the tiger latched on. When a deputy arrived, the man still had his arm in the tiger's mouth, forcing the deputy to shoot the animal. The zoo confirming overnight the tiger, named Echo, has died.
Echo is really cool. Tigers in general are really cool.
The 8-year-old male Malayan tiger was a star attraction at the zoo, with less than 200 members of his species left in the wild. The zoo posting this video about Echo last year.
They're actually critically endangered, and we want to make sure that the news gets out and people learn about these animals because we want to protect them and keep them around.
The incident is already drawing comparison to the 2016 incident when a gorilla named Harambe was shot dead after he grabbed and dragged a 3-year-old who had climbed into his enclosure. One user on Twitter writing, "One would have thought we'd have learned from the loss of Harambe. Now he is joined by Echo, the Malaysian tiger, because another human decided to do something abundantly stupid." According to the sheriff's office, the worker was authorized to clean restrooms and the gift shop, but not the animal enclosures. He was airlifted to a hospital with serious injuries. Andrew Dimbert, ABC News, New York.
A deadly afternoon in Metro Richmond. 4 shootings erupted in a 3-hour span on Tuesday. Police responded to deadly shootings in Henrico, Richmond, and Chesterfield. An early evening shooting in Ashland left 1 person in the hospital, but they are expected to recover. Now to internet advertising. Have you ever had the feeling some advertisers were stalking you online? Well, we've all experienced looking at a product on a certain website and then going to another site and seeing ads for that same product. Well, this is called retargeting in the industry, and we may start to see less of it. ABC's Elizabeth Schultze has more.
Most of us are familiar with those annoying pop-up notices when we're on a website, asking us to accept cookies to continue navigating the site.
So a cookie is a little text file that websites put in your web browser, and they can tell everything you've been doing online.
Cookies can be a good thing, like when they save your passwords so you can log in quicker or keep track of what's in your virtual shopping cart. These are known as first-party cookies. But there are major privacy concerns with what's called third-party cookies.
It's what allows companies to monetize their websites by showing targeted ads or selling information about you. And it helps pay for the content that we like, but it also ends up spreading your information all over the internet to places you have no idea where it's going.
With consumers and regulators getting more concerned about privacy, companies are starting to eliminate their use of third-party cookies, which means fewer instances of your online behavior being tracked and shared across multiple sites. But to make up for the losses in ad income, some companies may start requiring payment to view their websites.
Whether that's worth that privacy trade-off is a personal question, but it is something that could happen over the long term.
Even though eliminating third-party advertising means your personal data passes through fewer hands, it's important to know that companies will still be using those first-party cookies to collect your data. If you want to better protect your privacy now,
one of the choices you can make is switching to a browser like Firefox or one called Brave, or even using Safari, because those all have tools built in to protect your privacy.
You can also subscribe to a VPN service or download an ad blocker browser extension. Elizabeth Schultze, ABC News, Washington.
There's the age-old expression that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And then there's Aspen. She's a 4-year-old Texas dog that was taught sign language through the Austin Humane Society. Aspen came to AHS in May from a shelter where she was at risk of being euthanized. After arriving, volunteers realized Aspen was deaf and unable to respond to verbal commands. Through their Foster to Adopt program, Aspen was able to meet and go home with several prospective owners to find the best fit for her. Love that. Time now 9:41 on our Thursday morning. You're watching 8 News at 9, covering news where you live. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Good morning, everybody. 9:43, and it's a cloudy, dreary morning across central Virginia. We're going to hit a high today around 60. That's all we're going to get to. But better weather's coming for tomorrow to ring in the new year. We'll talk about it in a few minutes. Right now, let's go back over to Rachel Keller for more news.
Breaking news just in. Richmond's Confederate monuments, including the Robert E. Lee statue, will soon have a new home with the Black History Museum. Now, you'll remember most of the monuments were removed in summer of last year. The Lee statue was taken down in September. The museum will work with the Valentine to decide what happens next. Head to WRIC.com for more details. Well, the new year is almost here, and New Yorkers came together to bid an early goodbye to 2021. Specifically, they said good riddance to all the bad vibes. Here's ABC's Will Gans.
3, 2, 1, Happy New Year!
With the confetti test out of the way, Times Square is ready for its biggest party of the year. But not everyone is invited.
Toxic people, everybody.
Let's get rid of those toxic people.
Actor Jonathan Bennett inviting New Yorkers and tourists alike to celebrate Good Riddance Day in Times Square before that iconic ball drop.
This is our 15th annual event that kicks off the entire New Year's Eve celebration week. In order to get ready for the new stuff, we gotta get rid of the old stuff.
Revelers bidding adieu to things like stress and anxiety and Crocs. The papers collected and incinerated right there in the heart of Times Square.
We are burning the negativity from the previous year, from 2021.
This man bringing pages and pages of his, quote, financial headaches to add to that fire.
We started Good Riddance Day to say goodbye to that negative energy, those negative moments, so that you can arrive with a fresh, clean slate for the new year.
Others in Times Square ready to say good riddance to ex-boyfriends, hate, period, and of course, COVID-19 and masks.
I want to get rid of COVID and all the things that comes with it. I also want to get rid of COVID.
And maybe it's that incinerator, or maybe it's the hope of a new year. But hearts were successfully warmed in Times Square on the 15th annual Good Riddance Day.
I have to say it's because I have a lot of love, and we'll see what 2022 brings.
Will Gans, ABC News, New York.